PJ, welcome to the Smart Nutrition Made Simple show. What's up, brother?
Not much, Ben. Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. It's great having you on. I'm definitely a fan and been following your work for a little bit. And I like
Likewise.
your,
Likewise.
thanks, man. And I appreciate your no nonsense approach to nutrition and fitness. And so I figured that we could probably mesh and have a good conversation. And so here we are. So tell me, brother, what is it that you do? Maybe share for your listeners. What is it that you do, obviously, when you're not here podcasting?
Okay, so I owned several different personal training facilities in Cincinnati, Ohio, from 2004, I guess, 2004 to 2016, and about 5 years ago, I wanted to make a change. I saw where the industry was going. I wanted to be able to leverage technology to provide a greater service to my clients, to impact more people. Provide a more comprehensive and budget-friendly alternative to the traditional in-person training model. And frankly, Ben, you do personal training I started training people when I was freshman year of college.
Yeah.
So, we're talking 1997, I started training people, and you train that long in person, man, and it'll chew you up and spit you out. And I knew I was coming to the tail end of that. So in 2016, I started to transition, started to, give up a lot of my clients to an independent contractor in my gym. And then that same IC, eventually I sold him all my equipment. He took over the lease, and I just started to transition fully to online training. And that was 5 years ago, and the rest is history.
That's amazing. Very, very similar background to you as was training clients, starting in graduate school. And this was, for me, was 2003. So I know you're just a little bit older than me, but, training clients from 2003, training athletes initially, and then general population for years and years up until 2015, started to go online. And so very similar background. Let me ask, what do you think it was about your background and your experience training people in person that you've been able to leverage positively into your, online experience, right? Because there's so many online coaches now, right? But I'm of the opinion that obviously a lot of the newer online coaches don't have that background that they can parlay into really helping people get good results.
I 100% agree. From the interpersonal aspect of it, you got to know how to communicate with people. You got to know how to feel people out from a lot of different demographics, with a lot of different circumstances. Because most of this, Ben, as you know, is it's adult psychology and adult psychiatry in some cases.
Exactly.
And that's, unless you've had trench time working with people in person in either a private or semi-private model. And I'm not saying you can't pull it off, having not done that, but I think your chances for success are exponentially greater if you have that type of time. I'll also say this, from developing training programs from that standpoint and that aspect of it, if you don't have any in-person experience with people, you cannot write effective. I should never say cannot, but it's highly unlikely that you're going to be able to write effective training programs. If I probably have 20,000 hours of personal training, dealing with people with all different orthopedic issues and all different circumstances. So it's very hard to be able to take a questionnaire and your intake paperwork from an in-person client and write a good training program if you haven't done that thousands and thousands and thousands of times before. It's very hard to be able to know, what exercise progressions and regressions do you start somebody with? How do you progress people through a program? So all of that stuff. So again, I don't want to see you can't have success having not done in-person training, but I think your chances of having a lot of success are exponentially greater if you have.
Yeah. No, I mean, dead on, man. And you have to be able to spend the time seeing just how people move. Right. Yeah. And understanding all of the nuances of that. And like you said, orthopedic issues, and everyone's got something, and it's all good and well when you give someone a training program, and you expect them to do a bent over row, and it's like, okay, I can see they're doing their sets and their reps, but then they send you a video or something, you're like, holy shit, like this is, the antithesis of the form that I expected. And we know, even just with clients in person, is like, even when we're standing over them, it's constant course correction and
Correct.
cueing and changes. And so obviously with the online space comes the variability therein of trying to toggle between helping someone get great results, understanding that they need to be going under a comprehensive training program while mitigating any additional orthopedic issues.
Well, and that's the thing. And it's usually like the path of least resistance in exercise selection when you're dealing with an online clientele. I mean, I can tell from the intake paperwork what this person can handle. Had I not done this for 12 years in person, it'd be very, very difficult for me to know. And, and here's the other thing, Ben. I'd say about a quarter, I got, 109 clients online. I'd say a quarter of them train at home and are rank beginners. And you know how that goes. It's, what do you have for your in-home setup? Well, I got
dumbbells,
3-pound dumbbells and like some TheraTubing I got from physical therapists when I had a shoulder problem.
And a deflated Swiss ball.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. So it's without that in-person experience and knowing how to scale things for people of different fitness levels, you're going to have a real rough go of it. So,
well, 100%. So tell me a little bit about the demographic that you work with, and I guess cue us in a little bit more about what it is that you actually provide in terms of your coaching expertise.
Sure. I'll call it Gen Pop, typical busy adults, moms and dads, professionals with a lot of different competing demands in their life, a lot of different life circumstances. I'd say the average age range, I'm dealing with people from late 20s up to early 60s.
Yep.
So that I'd say that 40 to 50-year-old demographic is kind of where it falls mostly. And I specialize in body composition improvement, whether that be hypertrophy, fat loss, recomposition, which is very, very rare unless you're in 2 or 3 demographics of people. I don't get into the performance end of it. No sports performance training, no powerlifting. If you want to look better naked, I'm the dude. So whatever aesthetic type of goal you have, that's what I specialize in.
What's kind of the let's just say the kind of general behaviors and habits, if you will, that someone is implementing when they come to you, that you could kind of say is, again, generalized across the board?
Yeah. So my whole goal with my program is I want to take, it's in my Instagram little bio thing. It's like, I help overweight, unfit, tired adults change their habits and live the fitness life, teach them how to live the fitness lifestyle. That's it. So what I always say is I want to take people, and I think this is true. This is why we have an obesity epidemic. If you look at general society and you look at how people eat and exercise, 70 to 80% of the year is spent eating like garbage, whatever they want, however much they want, no thought behind it whatsoever, maybe sporadically doing some, in quotes, workouts here and there.
Right.
That's 70 to 80% of their year. Well, eventually someone gets disgusted with how they look, with how they feel, whatever it might be. And gosh darn it, I'm going to do something about it. Okay. And then they spend 20 to 30% of the year, all right, doing stupid crap and stupid diets and stupid workout programs in 2 to 3 week little pockets for 20 to 30% of the year.
Right.
Rinse and repeat from age 22 until age 62. And this is how people pile on 30, 40, 50, 60 pounds and develop all these chronic health conditions. What I want to do is flip that whole thing around. Let's do the right stuff 70 to 80% of the time. Let's develop an identity around all this. Okay. And then the nice thing is when you do that, that's the fitness lifestyle. It's what you do the majority of the time, not all the time. If you're doing the right stuff 3/4 to 80% of the time, the other 20 to 30% doesn't matter. And you can enjoy stuff. And it's getting people to flip that script around. And there's a lot of, I always say there's a lot of undoing that has to be done. I mean, changing adult behavior is very, very difficult, very difficult.
Absolutely.
And it takes, and that's what my whole program is about. It's getting people to identify with this lifestyle and develop these boring ass habits. And it's very, very difficult to do. And I'll be straight up with you. And you see all these trainers and coaches online that talk about how, all of my clients get results, and I had this fantastic, retention rate. Bullshit. 3 out of 10 in my estimation succeed, even in my program. Okay. Sure. Even in my program, I'm straight up transparent about that. Anybody who tells you otherwise is lying to you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the transparency, and you're dead on, man. Most people just don't want to put in the work.
The nuts and bolts of how I approach things is I am heavy on education and continuing education. So for instance, I was just on the phone before I got on the phone with you with a new client who reached out. I was on a consult call. The first week of my program is learning, period. I have an entire video series. I teach you how to count calories, track protein, use nutrition tracking apps. And it's 7 hours of video, and I have it on their calendar every day as a new video. That's it. That's the first 7 days of my program is learning. It's learning how to use my app, et cetera. So I'm developing their program in that time. It's mandatory that they do that. And I know if they haven't done it, because I start getting all these questions that are clearly answered in these videos. And I also have a manual, a 34-page manual that is required reading for every new client. Okay. It's mandatory. And I'll know if somebody didn't do it. So, and people know this. I'm very, very clear with this. The expectations are shaped. The expectations of my program are shaped. I almost do, when somebody reaches out for me for training, I almost do an anti-sales responder email. I'm ridiculously upfront. This is what you're getting yourself into, and this is what my program requires. Bullet point list. This may or may not be a fit for you. If you think it's going to be a fit for you, let's schedule the sales call. If not, no problem. I don't need you.
Yeah, no, that's great.
That way you're weeding out people who, for the most part, are not, it's going to be a waste of their time and your time. So once they get through, and I'm kind of all over the place with this, but once they get through that first week of education, I've developed their program. I've taken all their intake paperwork and this and that. Now, the way that the program works is they are required to check in with me daily on my app. All right. Surrounding 3 areas. And these are habit trackers on their calendar. Did you achieve your calorie goal today and not go over it? You check a box, yes or no. Did you achieve 10,000 steps a day? You check a box, yes or no. Did you do your scheduled workout today or take your scheduled off day? You check a box, yes or no. They are required to check those boxes every day. And I monitor that like a hawk. Every check-in that comes across my laptop, it's reviewed. Okay. It's all day long. I am either on my phone or on my laptop, or I'm at the park, or I'm in between sets in the gym. Okay. So I monitor their compliance, and we're shooting for in the 30 or 31 day month, we're shooting for 25, 26 days of consistency in all 3 of those areas. Okay. And then every 2 weeks, we do a deeper dive check-in where I look at their responsiveness. I look at their compliance, and I will make adjustments to their nutrition and or training, usually nutrition, on an as needed basis. And so that's, my training programs are set in 6 or 8 week blocks. We do not change anything in programs any more frequently, or any less frequently than that, I should say. So that's kind of how it works. And it's for any, I don't know how many, coaches you have listening to this podcast. I would assume it's many. My thing is communication with these people. It's being honest with these folks. If somebody's dropping the ball, for instance, if I'm looking at a check-in on nutrition and calories, and I see Lindsay or whoever, 3 out of the last 4 days, she's marked that she's been over her calories, she's going to get a direct message from me on my app, or she's going to get an audio message from me. So I'm big on verbal communication. So, and also any online coach or aspiring online coach, typing things will chew you up and spit you out. Okay. I can get on a voice memo or open up my laptop and shoot a quick video and upload it to YouTube.
Totally.
To the client. And I can say in 4 minutes what would take me 45 minutes to type. So it's also learning, being successful in this field is learning how to leverage your time and have its systems are everything, everything. Right. So, but clients, these people have to feel like you're in it with them, that you don't want to disappoint them. And in turn, they won't want to disappoint you. And if they want to see, they don't want to be forgotten about. They want value, and they appreciate seeing me visually, hearing me verbally, and going that extra step. My thing with, there's another reason that, again, we're talking about general pop people who want to get in shape for this podcast, but also any coaches that are listening. I mean, here's why a lot of online coaches don't succeed. Their responsiveness is terrible, like just terrible. My goal with my client, they're going to get a same day response. And oftentimes they're going to get 1 to 15 minutes. And it's a lot of work. But that's why I do well with this. Most, a lot of online coaches, okay, well, we'll do a call or a biweekly assessment, twice a month, and they'll get an email from the client. It takes them 4 days to respond to them. I've had so many clients from other coaches, well-known coaches, who charge a lot of money. They're like, I can't get this person to respond to me. I ask them a question, I don't get a response for 3 weeks. So, I mean, that's kind of how my program works.
Yeah.
It's heavy on accountability, heavy on education. And ultimately, I'm trying to teach people how to fish with this, like, as I'm sure you are.
Yeah. No, I can appreciate a lot of what you just said. And while we do, I think, have a lot of coaches that listen, I would like to speak really more to general population, speak more to the mothers and fathers that are looking to change their lifestyle. And one of the things that you touch on heavily here that makes your program so successful is obviously the educational component, but also the accountability standpoint, the direct communication and the ongoing accountability, which I believe, and I'm sure you'd agree with me, is probably one of the most important aspects that helps people be successful. Because let's take it back to the fact that you said, 70, 80% compliance is what's necessary throughout the year in order to be successful. But I want to preface this and say, this isn't necessarily compliance around ridiculous things. As you said, it's maintaining some semblance of control around your calorie intake. What I heard you say was moving frequently enough. And then, so just tell us a little bit about these baseline habits that you help people implement so that they can be successful. Because I realize that, you have a very specific process that you utilize, which I think is why people are successful when you're in your coaching program to a degree, but same with all of us. But I also want to help people understand that it doesn't have to feel as challenging as perhaps we're making it sound, if that makes sense.
No, and it's when you enter, dare I say it, a fitness journey, look, it's hard. It's change. It's tedious. And you feel overwhelmed at first, but if you keep punching the clock and being consistent, it gets less and less tedious. And then you start seeing results by taking action. And then the results are motivating. You want to take more action. And the whole time this is a skill set. Getting fit and living fit is a skill set. Okay. Yep. You don't acquire, if I wanted to be good at golf, I wouldn't go to the driving range once, say, I'm not very good at this, and just, quit. Right. You're not going to be good at it immediately. So it's literally punching the clock and doing it consistently until you gain some competency and mastery over this process. And it takes months or years. Right. And that's just what it is. I'll give you an example. My girlfriend's 15-year-old just got his temps. And, I'm in a car with him. It takes him 10 times the amount of time to drive to Target than it does me. However, 4 months from now, it's not going to be that way anymore. Same thing with these habits, and same thing with learning how to track calories, and same things with pre-planning your meals the night before. Same thing with going to the gym 3 or 4 times a week. It's overwhelming at first. It's cumbersome. You don't like it. But if you just keep showing up, you start to develop an identity around it. You start to gain competency and mastery around this entire process, to where then it just becomes who you are and what you do. And you're doing it because you want to do it, and you like the way it makes you look and feel, not because you have to do it. And this does not happen in a 6-week boot camp challenge or whatever.
Right.
Somebody's doing it, the dry January and push-up challenge at work and you're off. This does not happen in 6 weeks or 6 months or a year. It takes at least a year, if not more, because, you have all these habits that you've acquired and accumulated, mostly bad in terms of lifestyle, over 20, 30, 40, maybe 50 years. You're not going to undo all that in 6 weeks. You're just not. So it's a very, it would be easy just to sell, bright light 6-week programs and, all that stuff online and get a bunch of people to sign up. That's not what I want. I want people to learn how to do this stuff because this is a force multiplier in your life. Period. End of story. It's going to make you a better spouse, a better business person, a better employee, a better father or mother, a better friend. You're going to have robust energy, robust health. The juice is very much worth the squeeze, but it takes a long, long, long time to get into that mode to where you're like, I really like living this way. Right. And some people never get there and they just,
right.
And, a lot of people, I was talking to, I did Ali Gilbert's podcast and I talk, here's the deal, Ben, I think you'll agree. I don't doubt for a second that people dislike being overweight, out of shape, having chronic health problems, having no energy, not fitting into their clothes. I don't doubt for a second that people don't like that. But I will tell you this is that all those same people truly hate the solution to those problems. So until someone reaches a point to where they don't necessarily still like the work that goes into to solving their problems, but they see the problem is worse than the work that goes into it,
yeah,
nothing's going to happen. And for some people, that takes getting diabetes or having a heart attack or whatever it might be to get them into that mode to where they'll do it. Most people who say they want to get fit, they're just still too comfortable. That they're, because if there's evidence-based strategies and protocols and principles that can solve your problem and you're not taking advantage of them, there's no code to crack here. We know how to do this. We know how to get in shape. If you're not taking advantage of that and it's out there, that's an indication that you're fine exactly where you are for right now. You won't be later on, but for right now you are.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a certain level of leeway allowed to the degree that, oftentimes the people that we work with, because my coaching program is very similar to yours, there's no BS. It's like, look, this is going to take a long time and it's going to take a lot of work and energy and effort, but it doesn't have to feel super complicated. It's not like we're restricting everything, in perpetuity, like a lot of the diets. But with that said, is this level of leeway of you have to allow people the time and give them the space to screw up enough to the point where they come to the realization that it's like, okay, like I'm acknowledging that this is going to take a lot longer and it's going to be a lot more challenging than I anticipated. And all of the bullshit out there is just that. And I think that that's necessary to some degree because we all want the magic bullet in whatever capacity that is. But just like anything else, just like learning how to swing the golf club, it's like you're just not going to be able to hire a golf instructor and get good in a week or a month or a year, right? It's just not going to happen. And so I actually appreciate when people have had enough exposure to all of these different fad dieting practices, because then they're actually aware of what it's going to take to be successful.
I couldn't agree more with what you said. And here's what I always try to explain to people. When you're trying to reach your fitness goals and body composition goals, weight loss goals, whatever they might be, you got to understand, I tell people this all the time, there is nothing you can't enjoy in that process, nothing you can't celebrate, nothing you can't indulge in during that process of getting fit and getting in shape, provided that it is actually a special occasion and worth enjoying. That's the holidays, the vacations, the life milestones, the life events, the birthdays, the anniversaries, have at it. Enjoy those. But look, man, if we're being honest about that, we're talking, that might be 70 to 80 days a year. But you can enjoy all that stuff if, the caveat being if you're willing, this goes back to the 70 to 80%. The other 70 to 80% of the time, you're living the fitness lifestyle and you're executing the habits necessary. But this isn't, and look, if somebody thinks that's diet prison, like you're not ready to do this yet. Like if being able to enjoy all the holidays and special occasions and vacations and everything else with food and or alcohol, and you don't have to track calories on those, if that's not enough fun for you, like you got problems way more than food.
Yeah,
Sorry.
well, no, I mean, and
Um,
look, I think it's just taking and owning a level of responsibility around your lifestyle. That's absolutely necessary. Even, and this is not getting shredded, man. This is just living a healthy lifestyle with all of
exactly.
that we're confronted with and bombarded by on a daily basis. Is you actually have to be very proactive now, in order to be healthy, in order to separate yourself from everyone else, because the majority of people are living Homer Simpson lifestyles.
I like that, Homer. That's exactly right. And you mentioned something. A lot of people, like to your point, they think that this is like so overwhelming and so restrictive. Look, if you're a 40-year-old male and you're under 20% body fat, are you going to be shredded and magazine cover shredded? No. However, you're in the 20th percentile. I'm talking about in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
Just being under 20% body fat, like you're pretty reasonably healthy at that level. You aren't
Right.
going to turn any heads, with your shirt off, but you're healthy. If you're a woman over 40 and you're under 26% body
Right.
fat, you're healthy. Right. So, and in order to get to that level, it doesn't take this all encompassing, got to be perfect every day and hold myself up in the house and count calories all the time and
Right.
live and breathe exercise. That's not what it takes. So it's making people understand this type of stuff and making people aware. Hey, you got to plan your imperfection. Okay. Enjoy special stuff, but let's keep the special. John Goodman said this. Let's keep the special stuff special.
Right.
Right. The way that we live in this convenient society, in this immediate gratification society, it's like every damn day is a special occasion.
Yeah, I just did a whole day of work. Now I deserve
Yeah.
wine and cake.
Pop the wine. Yep. It's Taco Tuesday. It's Wine Wednesday. It's Thursday, and my kid scored a basket at his game. We're going to go out and have wings.
Yep.
Sports on Saturday, and this is how people live their lives. And that's the majority of people. I mean, I have enough of a cohort, and having done this for so long, that's how most people live their lives.
Oh,
And
I get it.
it's not good. Like I can't imagine living my life that way. I just could never. You just feel awful all the time.
Yeah,
So
but you also get used to feeling awful. And obviously you
it's
have plenty of
exactly right.
clients that are like, I didn't realize how shitty I actually felt. So
Until I felt good. Yeah.
let's get into some of the tangible stuff, because again, a lot of mothers and fathers listening, and kind of we're talking about, this level of compliance that's necessary. And I don't think that sounds terribly unreasonable, especially if we were to map out, and I can appreciate that analogy, if we were to map out a year and say, look, you have, what did you say, 70 days out of a year?
I have a tracker for my clients. It's just kind of a guide, and I call it the off-plan nutrition tracker. And I came up with like every conceivable special event, holiday,
Yeah.
vacation. I factored in all this stuff. I mean, Mother's Day, Father's Day, your sibling's birthday, all of this stuff. And it came out to be like 73 days.
Yeah.
I even had like 24 wild card days in there too, right? Stuff
Yeah.
that you just want to like. I'm a huge football fan. The Cincinnati Bengals were ecstatic there in the AFC title games. That to me, that's a special. That's a wild card, whatever day for me. I'm going to eat wings. I'm going to eat cheese dip. I'm going to do it all, right?
Yeah.
But it's really getting people in tune with that, to where that's a lot of days
Right.
in a year. Like, this isn't diet prison. It doesn't have to be that way.
Well, I appreciate that aspect and that analogy and that approach, because there's this dichotomy around, like you said, is we have generally this overweight population. They're coming to us and they say, look, I want to get in shape. I want to get healthy. I want to get lean. And I believe that in their perspective, getting lean looks like 10%, for males, 10% body fat, for females,
Right.
15% body fat. And it's this huge, huge disconnect around what reality looks like, how long that would potentially take, how aggressive they need to be. And then when we speak actually the truth around, look, we just want you to start to encompass the behaviors and the habits that are going to help you obviously get healthier, lose weight, lose body fat, improve your energy, improve your eating habits, right? And you can do that by still having plenty of what we call flexibility and freedom throughout the year. But you have to take responsibility for when that is and how you're going to structure that in.
Exactly.
Right?
It's opportunity cost.
Mm-hmm.
That's all this is. You can have fun, but you have to accept the opportunity cost to where the fun is
Yep.
30, a quarter to 30%
Yep.
of the year. The work is the 70
Yep.
to 80% of the year. If you accept that, you can have fun, enjoy life, and you can look and feel great. But
Yeah.
this ain't like people talk about this balance thing, man. And it's like people really believe like you look at a teeter totter that's perfectly level, right? That's balance. 50% of my days they're free for alls. I'm eating, I'm drinking, I'm laying on the couch, Netflixing. And then the other half of my days are I'm good. I'm strict. I'm counting my calories. I'm working out. Sorry, that's not going to cut it. You're never going to, if you want to get and stay fit, you're never going to have this perfect level teeter totter. It's always going to be weighed more on the end of good habits and the hard work and the tedious stuff. That's just the reality of it.
Yep.
So this whole notion of balance, I think, is a pipe dream for the most part. It's always going to be weighted here to one side.
Well, I think it's important for people to understand that, and one of the ways that we look at it is what we call nutrition seasons. Is basically saying, look, if we were to map out a year, which we often do with clients, is like, you tell me when you have the leverage to be a little more strict and when you kind of want to be your leanest, if you will, when you need that means kids spring break, it's summer vacation, we're traveling. And then of course we need to factor in what we call the life bumps. It's like shit's gonna hit the fan. Like there's gonna be a death in the family. You're gonna get COVID and be out for a couple weeks, whatever. Like there's gonna be stuff that's coming in. We have to factor that in. And then when do we need to be focused on more on performance so that we can leverage more calories? And like, so it's always going to be undulating. It's just us determining what that structure looks like for you so that you can actually commit to those periods where it's like, look, we got to hunker down and do some work here, but you're going to build that foundation so that we have more flexibility and freedom. We can hang out in maintenance. We can cycle calories more. Yep. You can have the birthdays and the summer break and get a little loose and whatever. So within that, it's because I think this is a good framing of this kind of long-term approach for people to just identify with, oh, that's cool for me to know that I can do what I want within reason. I think that's reassuring for people. So within that is, let's go back to this idea of the consistent habits that people need to practice in order to be successful. Like what are your foundational pillars, like main needle movers that people need to own?
Going back to what I said before, it comes down, this is why I have my clients check off their habits on habit trackers every day. If you look in a 30 or 31 day month, you got to be on point 25 to 26.
And so their habits are calorie intake.
I set their calorie intake and it's, did you stay at and not exceed your calorie limit for today? Check a box, yes or no. And when I say that, they know I mean, that doesn't mean, well, I think I did. This isn't estimating and eyeballing and assuming. It's not fist
size and
did you exactly. It's literally, did you weigh and measure food? Did you quantify, not quantitative nutrition, right? Were you reading food labels? Were you scanning barcodes? Were you using nutrition tracking apps? That's an on point day for nutrition. That way we know reasonably within a little range, yeah, you were probably in a calorie deficit and didn't go over your calories. If you can do that 25 or 26 days a month for 6, 12, 18 months, boom, there's your fitness transformation. And here's I'm going off a tangent a little bit, but I always explain to people, and this is a big one in getting people to really buy in. I'm like, look, let's take, and you can relate to this. Let's take your typical adult female who's between, I don't know, 140 to 190 pounds, right? if these people were to drop on average a half a pound per week for a year, sometimes some weeks it's more, some weeks it's less, some weeks they blow it and they gain. But if on average for 12 months, that's a 26-pound weight loss.
Right.
That for that weight range, that women in that weight range, that's the fitness transformation that they all want.
Right.
You can have it. You got to be able to play the long game though. And you got to be able to execute this stuff, not perfectly, but consistently. So having these very quantified objective metrics to hit, I always tell, look, month, 30, 31 days, you got to do this 25 times.
Yeah.
Boom. Do that month after month after month. You won't recognize yourself in a year, and you can still enjoy all this other stuff, all the special stuff. Have at it. Enjoy the food. Understand that if you wouldn't have an off plan or exception, I call them exception days. One of my clients came up with that. Yes, you get on the scale the next day, the scale is going to be up temporarily. You say, okay, I chose to do that. I'm going to remain consistent and check these boxes of being 25, 26 days on point. And I'm going to make more, the scale is going to come back down. I'm going to make more net progress. So that's really all it is. It's continually ingraining this stuff in people's heads.
Okay. So what's some of the pushback that you get around why it's too difficult to do that consistently?
Pushback?
Yeah. Do you get any pushback around tracking calories? It's too hard to track calories. I can't do it. It's
Yep. So here's my response to that all the time. First of all, for anybody listening who's on a weight loss journey, here's what you got to understand. These qualitative diet strategies, trying to eat better. It's always trying to eat more protein, trying to eat cleaner. I'm watching my portions. I'm eating more fruits and vegetables. That's all wonderful. Understand this, that in no way guarantees fat loss. It just doesn't. Somebody who goes from a completely awful diet to doing these qualitative type things that, you can make a little progress there for a tad bit, but there is a very quick point of diminishing returns. So what are you going to do? Then you have to reconcile in your head, well, if I want to make more progress, I have to be logical and I'm going to have to get quantitative with what I'm doing, which means calorie tracking. It means weighing and measuring food. It means using a nutrition tracking app. It means knowing what my calories are and need to be and not surpassing them no more than 4 or 5 days, 6 days per month. And I get that all the time. Well, it's like, people tell me what they eat all the time. I eat healthy. They give me this laundry list of stuff that they eat. And I just sit there and I say, how much? How many calories are you eating? Well, I don't know. Well, there's your problem. Mm-hmm. So you have to get into, and I have these conversations every day with my clients, people that are I just don't have time for the calories. I'm like, okay, if you don't want to do it, that's fine. But just understand, as long as you're cool with this,
right,
you are not going to make any more progress than you've lost 7 pounds in the last 6 months doing it your way. Understand that that's what it's going to be and no more. So you can either decide you're going to hunker down and do what I'm telling you, or you're going to be cool with where you are. You have to make that decision. I can't make that decision for you. Yeah. And the pushback I get is, it's hard. I'm sorry, but counting calories and using a nutrition tracking app, it's not hard. It is tedious. There's a difference between tedious and hard. Doing manual labor in Scottsdale, where you are, or in Phoenix, where you are, in 110 degree heat, doing manual labor, that's hard.
Yeah. Putting
some food on a scale and doing 3rd grade math and entering into an app is not hard. It's tedious. Okay. Yeah. So when I get that pushback, I'm like, well, number one, no, it's not hard. Number two, it gives you control over the whole process. And without control, there isn't going to be any change for you. Number 3, embrace it, because now you can eat a lot more than what you've probably tried to eat in the past when you weren't tracking calories. You can fit in some, 10, 15% of your calories as fun food. Mm-hmm. There's benefits to calorie tracking. Everybody wants to look at the drawbacks of it and the negatives to it. And it's like, no, going back to what I said earlier about my girlfriend's 16-year-old, taking forever to drive 3 blocks to Target. The more you practice tracking and counting and weighing and measuring and using nutrition tracking apps, the less tedious it gets, to where eventually, and you'll back me up with this, you might have 5 or 10 minutes a day wrapped up in the whole thing.
Right. I think I agree completely. And one of the ways that we kind of discuss it is it's really the highest ROI driver of success.
It
It's like,
is.
look, we can do a lot of shit to lose weight. We can do all these fucking fad diets and we can, do the hand portions and the eyeballing and the intuitive eating and
A thumb
what
with peanut butter.
whatever that means. And trust me, like I've learned the hard way over the years. I was trying to do all this, trying to like resist doing the whole tracking thing, mostly for myself. And then with my clients, no one's getting results until it's staring you right in the face. Now, here's the thing is when you have gone through this process for long enough, just like we're building these skills, right? You are developing these skills. You're actually learning what it means to, by virtue of developing these skills, you're actually consistently visualizing what meal portions look like. That in and of itself is going to help you develop the tools to learn how to eat intuitively if and when you do decide to do that. So you're basically leveraging this skill for the long term to say, look, man, if and when you don't want to track, because I don't believe that everyone should have to track in perpetuity, is like, then you are going to be that much more informed. You're going to be that much more able to make good decisions. As you say, it's going to be part of your identity of how you fuel yourself on a daily basis because you know what it looks like. You know what makes you feel good. You're the type of person to choose a lot of protein and veggies and high fiber at your meals and, to casually include the things that are going to be treats for you. And it's just part of who you are, but you have to put in, right? You have to put in the work to get to that point.
Got to develop the skill set and the knowledge. And the only way, like to your point, the only way you can eat it, intuitive eaters spent 10 years tracking. Okay.
Exactly.
I mean, you got to have good intuition to eat intuitively.
Exactly.
And if you haven't tracked and you don't,
no clue.
You have no idea. And here's my other thing with the whole tracking and the tedious nature of it. I'm sorry. Now, in 1996, in fact, I have the book back here. If you wanted to track calories and count calories in like the mid 90s, there's a 400-page book of calorie counts that you'd have to literally like take to the store and look up. And now, I'm sorry, this technology is amazing.
Yeah.
You can pull out one of a dozen different tracking apps, scan a barcode. You can copy and paste stuff. You can change amounts. You can look up stuff in a database. You can create custom foods. It's easy. Like it's no longer, it's hard is no longer a valid excuse. It's just tedious. People do tedious stuff in their lives every day.
Yep.
I always say that about people. I'm like, all you guys already have what it takes to succeed with this stuff because you're doing it in other elements of your life. How did you grow this great business that you have?
Right.
There was a lot of like mundane stuff and routine, same habits every day that you had to do to build that business that you still have to do to maintain that business. It's the same. Yep. It's just a different skill set and a different objective.
Totally,
Most people have it in them.
No, that was great. That's great. I was on the phone with a client. He lives in Chicago. He owns like 9 restaurants and he owns like 172 COVID testing centers. He's absolutely demolishing it right now.
Yeah, and sure.
He's got, and he was explaining to me, I'm like, how have you done all this? He's like, well, I'm super systematized. Like I have systems for every single thing that I do. I'm like, hey, dipshit, you have no system for your lifestyle. Like he's, inconsistent with breakfast and exercise and all over the place and drinking too much. And it's like all these things. I'm like, we got to develop the system for your, personal daily behaviors.
Your personal health business.
That's it. And it's the exact same thing. So, I don't want to beat the tracking horse to death. There are a couple things I want to touch on with you, before I let you go, and I don't want to make this too long either. So a couple of the things that I think are important for people to, for us to acknowledge for people. I would love your approach because you mentioned, obviously you have a long background in training individuals in person and now obviously online. Let's talk very briefly about the benefits of strength training as it pertains to body composition change and health, because what I see is obviously a lot of people doing a lot of different nonsense in terms of physical activity that isn't contributing to their body composition goals. So just like, what's the nuts and bolts in your, professional experience?
So my approach is people always ask, well, what's your training philosophy? I'm like, it's basic progressive resistance strength training. It's doing good sound movements, log booking your stuff, not program hopping, pushing sets to a point to where you're within a rep or two of muscular failure or to failure. It's trying to progress in weight and or reps. I'm sorry, if you're doing I put up on Instagram a few weeks ago, most people aren't getting anything out of their training because they're doing 10 rep sets with 20 rep weights. Mm-hmm. Okay. So for anybody listening out there, if your sets, like at the end of the sets that you're doing when you're strength training and not lifting weights, strength training, there's a difference. If the last couple reps of your sets are not significantly slowing down on the lifting portion and or stopping, you aren't training hard enough and you're not going to drive any benefit out of it. And I don't care. Like I have this new client who I wrote her program and she's like, well, can I do like these Peloton strength classes on my off days? No, it's mindless mechanical work. It's not real strength training. It's not contributing anything to anything. And all it's going to do is take away from your recovery capacity and your performance in the actual real workouts.
Yeah.
Okay. All of these boot camps and these HIIT classes and they already even HIIT classes.
No.
These orange theories and this it's all so stupid. Like lift weights in a systematized fashion with good evidence-based principles, 3, maybe 4 days per week, walk a ton, right. Best activity known to man, walking. And then, I'm also a proponent of doing what they, you'll know what this is. Your listeners might not. Zone 2 cardio for maybe a total of 40 minutes a week, maybe 2 20-minute sessions. When I say zone 2, meaning you could complete a 15-word sentence and not have to stop. Heart rate 110 to 130.
Yep.
There's your formula, right? And also understand that training, if people want to be jacked or ripped or toned or contoured, or it's all the same thing, right? Whatever nomenclature or verbiage you want to use to describe that look, everybody knows what that look is. You have to have enough developed muscle tissue, number one, and you have to have a low enough body fat percentage, if you so desire, if you want, for that contour and shape to show from beneath the skin. You will not get good muscular conditioning doing all this goofy stuff that everybody wants to do. These beach body workouts and all this lift heavy weights, put mechanical tension on your muscles, try to get stronger. If you want your legs and butt to look better, go from doing walking lunges for 3 sets of 8 with your body weight. 4 months later, you're doing it with 30-pound dumbbells. I guarantee you that your ass and thighs will look better.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And people just, well, can I do this and that? No, find the minimal effective dose. If you look at the way people attack fat loss training, it's the stupidest thing ever. It's like, okay, we're going to cut your pay calories by 20%. All right. What if your boss did that to you? Would you then go out and start spending more money and opening up credit cards and accumulating more debt? Right. No, but this is exactly what people do. They go on a calorie restricted diet. Okay. And they don't want to track anything. So they do the stupidest stuff imaginable and eat as little as they can because they're just trying to get away from tracking it. Ridiculous. And they're going to do 5 weight training sessions and 4 HIIT workouts. And they're going to do steady state for 4 hours a week. It's like, dude, what are you doing? I'm like,
until they crash and burn and eat everything in sight and say, I'll start again 2 months.
When you have that discrepancy between energy coming in and energy going out, it's not going to end well for you. I have to tell people this all the time. Are these 3 workouts enough?
Yeah, that's it, man. It's just less is more, right? Less is more. Manage your calories, walk
Always
a lot.
Remember this to anybody listening. You bring the intensity to your workouts, not the other way around. I've been lifting weights for 25, 30 years. You could give me the most basic 5 exercise upper body workout and I could make it work for me and make gains on it.
Right.
Because I know how to train hard. It's not about all this novel, goofy influencer stuff. It's good, sound, basic exercises that fit your structure that you can train hard on.
Yeah. Well, the boring shit gets results, and that's what that's what we're fighting against is all the shiny objects out there that people want. So that was great. Now, last thing I want to hit on here is alcohol and fat loss. What's your take? What's the conversation with clients around, hey, like how much can I have and still make progress?
Yeah, I love this question, and you and I both have these conversations with people all the time about this. Okay, so here's the deal. Now, theoretically, yes, you can fit alcohol into your calorie deficit diet. You can track it. You can look on the Coors Light can and okay, that's 95 calories, right? Okay. Or I can look up on MyFitnessPal, ounce and a half of vodka. If you're going to have a vodka club soda, okay, well that's 102 calories. Cool. I'm just going to fit this into my calories for the day. Okay, well let's theoretically say you're a 150 pound woman dieting on 1,650 calories a day. Probably close. That's probably about right. Okay, so now you're gonna use up 10, maybe 20% of your calories on alcohol. Okay, alcohol has no nutritional value. It's preferentially metabolized by the body. Now here's where it gets really fun. Alcohol lowers inhibition. Okay, so you're already hungry from being in a calorie deficit. Now your inhibition's lower. And I also say that alcohol is the biggest appetite stimulant I know of. Yeah. You give me, if you give me one drink and I'm in a calorie deficit, my hunger goes from an expected level of hunger in a deficit to Mach 50, right? So now you justify, well, I'm going to go over my calories a day. Well, now you go over by trying to fit this 200 calories of alcohol into your daily calories. Now you end up eating 1,000 calories more than you intended to. Your sleep's terrible. Okay. You toss and turn all night. You don't get good sleep. Okay. What's poor sleep lead to? Your appetite hormones are all effed up, right? So you wake up the next day, you're already hungry for being in a calorie deficit for however long. Now your appetite hormones are all messed up. Now your cravings are through the roof. You slept like crap. You don't want to go to the gym. You don't move. So theoretically, yeah, you could fit alcohol in your calories. I've never seen it go well. I've never seen it work.
Nope, never goes well.
I tell people, look, if you're going to drink, going back to my whole 25-5 thing throughout the month, right? If you're going to drink, do it on a planned day. Drink up and live with the consequences of it. But don't try to fit it in on a normal day. You leave that for the special occasions. That's my advice.
It's great, man. No, I couldn't agree more. I just gave so we just ran a 21-day no alcohol challenge in our Facebook group where we kind of layered in all what we call the core pillars of same thing we're talking about: calorie tracking, protein minimums, movement, sleep, routine. Yep. Obviously the foundational pillar here was like just ditching alcohol, which is so eye-opening for so many people. But while they're driving that momentum, okay, we're infusing all of these other habits that, hopefully are people going to maintain to some degree after the challenge. But it's absolutely insane.
Ben, would you agree that I literally, if I would say if somebody could make one change and they don't want to track macros or calorie, do any of that stuff, I would have to say, if you just quit drinking,
yeah, without question,
you'll probably just by default, a lot of your other habits are going to improve. Your sleep's going to be better.
Dude, there you go. So it's right. It's how it bleeds into literally every other area of your life, right? It's like if you're drinking, you're not sleeping. If you're not sleeping, your hunger and cravings are off. Your lower insulin sensitivity. So you're going to be eating more food. You're not going to be moving as blah blah blah. On and on and on. Energy, relationships. Emotions, right? All of that stuff. So I would agree with you. And it's crazy. And look, I'm someone who enjoys alcohol plenty, but sure. It is absolutely crazy how socially acceptable it is when we fully acknowledge how bad it is for us and how it directly interferes with literally every area of our life. So if we can tie that right back into your model of, listen, choose wisely those days when you're including it, and make sure it's in an environment where it's you're actually around the people that you want, and you're actually celebrating something that's relevant and not just Taco Tuesday. And right. And great, own it.
Right, exactly. And one last thing I'll say to anybody listening, and we could do a whole podcast on this. Look, the emotional eating thing is a massive problem for people. Here's what I'm going to say. You are not going to fill an emotional void with food or drink. You're not. Okay. Whatever anxiety or stress or whatever else that you're having, it's not going to solve your problem. Now, logically, we know that no one's perfect with that because we all do it at times. But if you can be logical about that, okay, if you're having a problem with your spouse, you standing in the pantry with a jar of peanut butter is not going to solve that problem. Okay, it's just going to be a double whammy because that problem's still going to exist, but now you've not honored the commitment that you made to yourself. So now you feel like crap about that too. So stress eating in response to stress never makes the original source of stress less stressful. I say that to people all the time. But I always like to throw that in because that's a massive problem for people.
It's a massive problem. And I think that, look, that's really what a lot of this comes down to is look, at the end of the day, yes, we have these behaviors that we need to follow. And tangibly, it's like, yes, it's going to benefit you by tracking calories, but it's the nuance within that we can really start to understand, why we do what we do. When you look at your calorie tracking app and you're like, holy shit, I ate half a jar of peanut butter. What was going on? Okay.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. We got in a fight and I was stressed out from work and I was really anxious or I was sad or I was, look how many drinks I had on the weekend. Well, we were celebrating this, that, and the other. And so when you can start to create more awareness around your existing behaviors by virtue of the fact that you've been tracking consistently, like I said, that's when you can really start to develop a much deeper understanding of why you do what you do if you are an emotional eater and or drinker, and start to make change in your life. But otherwise, we're just running in this vicious circle of I keep doing it, and then I keep feeling guilty and shameful about it, and then I won't eat, and then I'll do it again, and on and on.
Yep, it's bad news. It really is. It takes a lot of time to get right too.
But all the more reason why we need to take structured and consistent steps to identify what those behaviors actually look like. And frankly, I think that tracking is one of those where we can be able to do that, and obviously working with a great coach. So with that said, brother, where can people find out more about you?
You can find me on Instagram at PJ Striet. That's Striet. It's the whole I before E except after C thing. Facebook, Coach PJ Striet, and my website is revivefitnesssystems.com.
Awesome. And all of those links will be in the show notes. PJ, thanks so much, man. Great conversation. Great. Really enjoyed it. Great to connect. And we'll have to do this again soon.
I'd love it. Keep up the good work, man.
Take care, brother.
Bye.